The moon rose red that night, and even the stars looked away from the land they once blessed. Before the first shot, the wind carried prayers and promises that would never return home. The Cheyenne slept in their camp, dreaming of horses, not of the soldiers already crossing the ridge. Mothers stirred the fire, warming the dawn that would never come for half their people. Colonel Chivington whispered orders through his teeth, his faith louder than his mercy. Behind him, 600 men waited, rifles loaded, faces tight with a victory not yet earned. Down below, children chased smoke rings from the dying embers, laughing like the world was kind. The first bullet broke the morning, and the sound carried farther than the truth ever would. A dog barked once, confused by thunder that had no rain, only death. Men shouted for God and country, but the ground heard only hunger and fear. The creek ran shallow, slow, innocent, unaware it was about to learn how to carry sin. Arrows rose in answer, desperate, thin, like prayers torn apart by the wind. The Cheyenne warriors woke running, grabbing rifles, shouting names instead of orders. The women pulled children toward the riverbank, the water colder than salvation. Smoke swallowed the sun, and morning died with it, replaced by the light of fire. A soldier fired into a teepee, and silence screamed louder than any cannon ever could. An old man raised a peace flag. It fluttered once before falling with his hand still on it. Chivington's horse reared, nostrils wide. Beasts always know before men do. The valley became chaos, dust, gunfire, prayers, the language of survival itself. A boy no older than 12 ran with a knife, too brave for his own unfinished story. A woman grabbed her baby, running through mud thick with blood and footprints of gods. The air burned. Powder and flesh made one terrible incense for a deaf sky. A drummer boy laughed, then cried, the sound breaking like glass under boots. Spare no one, the order went out. The wind carried it farther than reason could follow. Warriors on ponies charged the line, hair flying, voices echoing through fire and faith. Bullets cut through them, but courage doesn't bleed the way flesh does. The river filled with bodies, mothers and sons tangled together like roots torn from the earth. One man dropped his rifle, whispering, "This isn't war." The echo replied, "Then what is it?" The Cheyenne fought back, arrows black against the smoke, each one a piece of lost sky. A young woman struck a soldier with a stone, her scream older than the nation that killed her. The colonel rode through the chaos, shouting triumph into a storm that swallowed his name. Fire reached the lodges, eating the stories painted on their sides, entire histories erased in minutes. A child's cry cut through the thunder, sharper than metal, more haunting than any hymn. The horses screamed as they fell. The sound joined the river like a second current of pain. A soldier found a child hiding beneath a blanket and turned away, trembling. But another saw and fired. Smoke took the place of a name that would never grow old. A Cheyenne elder crawled toward the creek, bleeding, whispering to the spirits of the water. "Remember," he said, "even when they forget." The water listened. The battle became slaughter, and slaughter became silence faster than justice ever would. The colonel called it victory. The wind called it blasphemy. The earth beneath the camp steamed, not from fire, but from the heat of what men become. Feathers, cloth, and dreams burned together, rising into the morning like shamed ghosts. The soldiers cheered when it was done, their boots slick with blood they refused to see. One picked up a doll from the mud and couldn't meet his own reflection in the water. The creek, once clear, ran red, slow, deliberate, unwilling to carry the story clean. The dead lay in silence, but the silence was louder than any sermon. Chivington raised his hat to the horizon, but even the sun refused to salute. A crow circled above the camp, calling names no one alive could answer. Smoke drifted across the prairie, the only witness that dared to linger. The river began to swell, slow and sick with memory, its surface shimmering with grief. Soldiers gathered relics, cutting braids, pocketing beads, tokens of victory or curse. One man took a necklace of bone and felt it burn through his pocket all the way home. The chaplain wrote that morning in his Bible, then tore the page before it could stain. By afternoon the sun hid behind smoke, ashamed of what it had been forced to see. The Cheyenne who survived fled north, carrying ashes where songs used to live. A mother walked barefoot across the plains, her baby gone, her eyes two empty wells. She didn't cry. The tears had frozen long before the river learned to speak blood. The wind changed and the stench of death carried all the way to the next settlement. The soldiers drank whiskey that night, toasting bravery they didn't understand. The colonel wrote his report, each word polished clean of guilt and dirt. He called it a decisive strike, and the pen trembled with each letter. The river below the camp kept whispering, its current thick with accusation. The bodies floated downstream, tangled in reeds and the long memory of the plains. Wolves came at dusk, careful, reverent, as if they knew they were eating sin. The stars rose above Sand Creek, cold, distant, pretending they hadn't seen. A soldier dreamed of fire that night and woke to find his hands still shaking. The chaplain prayed aloud, but his voice sounded smaller than the cries he tried to replace. The colonel slept well, convinced history would write him as a savior. But history remembers differently. Ink never dries on the hands of liars. The next rain turned the camp into mud, and the mud into graveyards without names. The horses avoided the water for weeks, snorting when the wind came from the creek. In Denver, the newspapers called it glory. The land itself called it grief. The word Cheyenne carried the taste of smoke, and no one dared speak it loud. A survivor buried his wife by the river and marked the grave with her broken necklace. He said nothing. The river spoke enough for both. The soldiers moved on to the next valley, leaving silence to rot among the reeds. But silence grows teeth, and it would bite every name written under that report. Years later, travelers spoke of whispers near Sand Creek when the wind turned cold. They said the river still ran red after storms, as if it remembered too well. The colonel died in his bed, medals shining brighter than his conscience ever did. His grandchildren would ask of Sand Creek, and the family would change the subject. But the land does not forget, nor forgive, nor sleep through its own mourning. The bones beneath the water shifted with every thaw, keeping time with regret. Crows still gather there, black sermons circling what men tried to erase. In winter the ice cracks at night like gunfire, retelling the story no one wants to hear. And when the snow melts, the river sighs, releasing ghosts back into the grass. The plains bloom again, green over red, life pretending innocence. Children play nearby now, unaware of what their laughter covers. But sometimes, when they fall silent, they swear they hear drums far beneath the wind. History calls it a battle. Truth calls it a scar. The river calls it by every lost name. The night sky above Sand Creek glows faintly red, even when no fire burns below. The wind still travels east, carrying the scent of smoke and the shape of a scream. And the river, eternal witness, never forgets the night it learned the taste of blood.